Hello, welcome back to my channel. Last video we were able to cover the basics of using the print statement in the Python program. Today we are going to continue from where we stopped by exploring, just like I said earlier, on variables, data types, comments and print functions, then concatenations. I think we've talked about this, but we're still going to have a little touch on it again. So what are variables? Of course, variables are simply a name memory location that stores a value which can be used later in the program. Just see it as a folder in your phone. Take, for instance, you have something like a directory called, let's say, pictures or videos, where you can save your videos and you can save your pictures. Anytime you want to, just go there, open the folder, and you have your content in there. So that's the same thing what variables are all about. But however, there are rules to declaring these variables. You can't just declare variables like that. And for instance, let's get straight to our code here. Why do we actually need variable first? We need variable because we want to store our files, we want to store our codes, we want to store some things in it. For instance, I just said print, let's say print the letter A, and then this print A, right? That's good. But what if I want to use this A maybe in subsequent lines of my code? That means I need to store it somewhere so I can have access to that A some other time. Alright, so hence the need of variable. So I can say letter A equals to A. At this point in time, I've been able to save this very letter A into the variable called letter A. So next time if I want to print this letter A, I'm not going to use the print statement like this again, like A, no. But rather, I'm going to print letter A right here. So if I print this, I'm still going to have A, which is the same thing as printing the A itself. Remember we talked about something last video that if you need to pass a string each time you're printing something here, like something like this, letter A. So the question is, why didn't I pass these quotes while trying to print letter A? No, I can't pass that because I'm referencing this very variable. When you print letter A, it's going to print letter A like that. It's not going to have any effect on this very one you write here. So putting something in quotes means repeat after me, like give it out the way I gave it to you. But when you remove the quote, it simply tells the computer that, okay, this letter A is a variable that exists somewhere. So go and look into that variable, open the content and print the content for me. Just like your phone, you open your video. That folder is just to hold video, right? It's not as if the folder works for anything. It's just holding the content of your files. So when you open the video folder, you're going to see the files inside. Then you open which video you want to play. The same thing is applicable here. So when you open the letter A, it goes straight, open the content, and then print out what you have inside the variable for you. So on printing this, I'll have A. So whatever I type here, let's say I am a programmer. If I run this, I'm gonna have I'm a programmer written because that is the content of this letter A. I hope that clarifies what the variables is all about. So now we have ways you can declare variables in Python or any other programming languages. Number one rule here stated here is that a keyword should not be used as a variable. What does that mean? All these keywords, like let's say something like for is a keyword, something like and is a keyword, something like an if is a keyword. Now it cannot say if equals to this. Once you do that, it will flag an error because if is a reserved word. It's specifically noted in the compiler for a particular thing. So using if as your variable name will flag an error because you can't use it. On pointing this error, you can see these tips. It says the if statement is used for conditional execution. That means you cannot use that if statement or if keyword for a variable. That is not allowed. You can't use something like for. For is also a keyword. You can't use that. You can't use something like and is a keyword. You can't use that. So all keywords in your program should not be used. The question could be, okay, how do I know if this is a keyword or not? You can't actually know that, but if you can go to your browser and type all keywords in Python, you will see the list of it. But basically, you don't need to even go that far. If you try to write something, let's say and it's flagging error, and look at the color, it's pink. I don't know if that's pink. I'm not into color stuff. But if that's pink, actually, you can see that already flags an information that is a keyword. But if I use something like A, you can see that the color is white. So that tells me it's not a keyword. So and the color does not mean that it's going to be white at all times or pink at all times. It depends on your template. It depends on the theme you're using in your system or your compiler or your IDEs. So it may be different, but try to understand that your keyword color is going to be different from your variable color. So if the color matches that of your keyword, it's wrong. And if it flags a red background, if it flags an error, try to change that variable name. All right. Okay. Then you can use anything for variable. You can use small letters, you can use capital letters, and note that, let's say A pointed to this and capital A equals to, let's say equals to engine tech. There are two different things. All right. If I print A and also print capital A, you can see this and you can see engine tech. That means that your variable name is case sensitive. Small a is not the same as capital A. So take note of that. So if I should say AA, or let's say AAA, and I have this one to be something like this, I have AAA, there are two different things. This and this are not the same thing. So that should be taken care of. All right. And then another thing says that a variable should not begin with an integer but can start with an underscore. Okay. That means that I can't have something like this, let's say 2 high equals to hello. It's not going to accept because it starts with 2. So a variable cannot start with a number, but rather it can be substituted by a number. What I mean is that I can delete this and put 2 here. It's going to be fine. I can put 2 here. It's going to be fine. You can put a number anywhere. It's fine. But the beginning of your variable declaration should be an alphabetical character or an underscore. I can start with something like underscore. It's fine. It's going to accept that. I can start with capital letter. It's fine. But it can't start with something like at. It's wrong. It can't do that. This is a decorator. We'll talk about that when it gets further in the program. At is used for decorators. You can't start with something like percentage. No, that's wrong. It's not accepted. The only character that is accepted apart from the alphabetical characters is an underscore. All right. Then you can declare your variable anyhow you like, but it is pertinent that your variable declaration should make meaning. For instance, I want to create a variable that stores an addition of, let's say, 2 plus 2. I can't just write maybe hi equals to 2 plus 2. Does that make sense? No. If I print hi, fine, it's going to work. It's going to print 4 for me, which you've seen that. But the declaration does not make sense because hi does not have any direct relationship, direct meaning to 2 plus 2. No. Rather, I can use something like add. It makes meaning. So that, okay, someone looking at my code knows that I'm trying to add 2 plus 2, right? That's fine. And then you can, let's say I want to declare a variable for a number. Let's say hi equals to 5 and then hello equals to 10. This is fine. I can say print hi plus hello. That will give me 5 plus 10, which is 15. That's fine. But looking at your declarations, does it make sense that you have hi 5 and hello 10? No, it doesn't make sense like that. So I think the best thing you would have done is to say either number 1, or you can use the shortcut num1, and then I can have here num2. All right, that makes sense because it's trying to tell me that the content of this variable is a number. All right, so try to ensure that your variable declaration actually connotes the data type you're trying to pass and the meaning of what you're trying to achieve. That's one. Two, If your variable it's a long one, let's say I want to write a variable called um something like let's say who am I is going to be my variable. If I write who am I, it doesn't really make sense because it's not readable. It's not something we can read properly. So there are conventions in how you name your variable. There's what they call them snake case. There's what they call Pascal case. There are different ways you can declare variable. Example, instead of me to write who am I like this, I can simply write something like who capital A M and I. Now, this enhances a little meaning to your variable declaration because the first one is who, and okay, where the A starts from is another word. The I is actually another word, or you can use this who underscore am underscore I. It makes sense like that. Or let's say who am underscore I. It still makes sense. But joining everything together does not really give a good meaning to your variable declarations. So try to avoid that. Okay? So having something like this, who am I, it's fine. Let's say equals to I am engine tech. Alright? So if I run this, I have to print this first. Print who am I, and then run this code. It gives you I am engine tech. So your variable declaration, I repeat, should be meaningful. Alright? Should be meaningful. Okay. That's all about variable declarations. We can research on other things, other concepts about variables if you so deem it necessary to do that. Okay, move further to data types. Data types is a collection or grouping of data values, usually specified by a set of possible values and a set of operations allowed on a given data. Now, we have different types of data types in any programming language, and the one that is very common is the int, the float, the strings, the boolean, dictionaries, which some languages call it array. The list is specifically made for Python and tuples. Others sometimes see lists as arrays, but they almost operate in the same way. So let's try to explore them one after the other. We start with the integer. Integer is simply numbers. Let's say I pass something like a equals to 8. That's an integer. So how do you know that 8 is an integer in terms of the program? How does the program understand that it's an integer? What you do to have that understanding is to print the type of A. Now, once you do this, it will return on the console the data type of this very variable name. So running this gives you a class of integer. So that means this is integer. Some languages like C language, Java and all that, you have to strictly define the type of data you want to pass to your variable. Example, you have something like int A equals to 8. Python does not allow that. You don't do that in Python. It's dynamically typed, meaning that you can pass any data type and it will understand the data type you're trying to pass behind the scene. If I go back to my previous C program that I wrote here, all right, if you want to pass an integer, you must declare something like this. Int, let's say A equals to 10. That's how you declare in C language. You must specifically identify the data type here. But that is not in Python. You can't do that in Python. It's very simple programming language. The syntax is simple, like I said. Pass the value directly, it's fine. All right. So let's see if I have A equals to quote 8 and then print type of A again. Let's see that. You see we have class of string. Okay, let me just use something else here. Let me use B here, and then let me print type here. Type of B. Okay, we have the first one to be integer, the second one is string. I explained this in my previous video. If you did not see that, please go back and watch that video. You understand what and why the 8 is different from the other previous 8. All right, so this is a string data type and this is what an integer data type. We have another data type called the list. Let's say my list equals to, it is denoted by a square bracket. So anything you pass inside here, it's iterable. We'll look at that later. It's simply collects different data types. For instance, I can pass 6 here. I can pass something like how are you in here. I can pass something like a tuple inside of which we'll talk about that in a jiffy. Alright, I can pass something like a dictionary or a set inside of it. Let's say 4 3 this, and always try to put space. It's fine like that. And I can choose to pass a dictionary here. This is a set. I can pass let's say key and then value. All right, so no matter what you pass in a list, it is acceptable. So if I print the type of my list, you're gonna see list here. So this is a list data type. We have another one called tuple. My tuple equals to, that one is enclosed with a bracket. The same thing, just like the list, you can pass anything you like in here. How are you? You can have tuple inside a tuple, 5 this and that, just like that. You can have a list as well inside of here. All right, something like that. So if you print the type of my tuple, run that, you're gonna have tuple as the data type. Another one we have is a set. Let's say my set equal to, it's enclosed in a curly braces, 4 5 7 2 and something like that. Set should be unique. What you pass inside a set should be unique. For instance, I'm passing numeric data type. I can't come and pass something like this here. Though it's not going to have any effect, your code is going to run properly. But if you take your mind back to sets, like in school days where you have sets notations, where you have what do you call a Venn diagram, you have set A, set B and all that, you realize that a set should be unique. It should have a unique values. If you talk about fruits, what should be inside your set is like orange, mangoes, banana, stuff like that. If you talk about numbers, what you should have is something like 1 2 3 and all that. So it is not very proper for you to have multiple data types inside a set. It will work, but it is not advisable, because when you want to go into set manipulations, calculations, like trying to find some, maybe something like what do you call it in set again, we talked about union of sets, talk about stuff like that, probably trying to add the total number of sets, the uniform sets or numbers, something like that, you realize that you're going to have issues in your code. All right, so it is best you make your sets unique to each other. So hence I'm not going to write this, I'm going to leave it at that. Then the next, okay, let's try to print the data type there. Print type of my sets, and that should give us sets right here. The next data type we have is called dictionary. That's a very good and something you love to learn very well, because you can't escape from dictionary. Let's call it my dict equals to, it's still using curly braces like the set, but the difference is that a dictionary uses what they call key value pairs. That is to say, before the comma separation of each values, you should have two values. The first one is called a key, and then you have a colon passed to the value. All right, before the comma, then the next key and value pair. Maybe the next one is also, let's say, let me do this. Next key pointed to next value. All right. So each dictionaries must have a key value pair. Just take your mind back to dictionary, normal dictionary, like Oxford, like Merriam-Webster and all that. In every dictionary, it has two keys, right? Two key value pairs like that. It has the word that you're searching for and the description. The word is the key. That's what you're looking for, right? And the description is the idea behind the key. So when you look for, let's say I look for something like, I want to look for a word called, let's say, programming in the dictionary. When you search, you're gonna see programming like this, and then it's gonna give you a description of what programming does. Sometimes the synonyms, antonyms, and the rest of them. Okay, so the same thing is applicable. The same concept is used in programming. The key, it's what you're actually searching for. So when you get the key, you'll see the values, the description of what the key stands for. That's it. Example, let's say an address. Let me use this as something important here. Address, and I pass the value to be um, Akwa Ibom State of Nigeria. That's where I'm from. So you can denote that this is a key that points to my address. That's what dictionary does. So let me print this, print the type of my dict. Notice that the class is what? Dict. So those are the basic data types we have in the Python programming language. Okay. So let's watch ahead. I've talked about. Okay, the next one here is Boolean. Sorry, I've not talked about Boolean. Boolean actually returns either true or false. For instance, my bool equals to true. All right. So let's see the type of my bool. Print type and then my bool. Run that. You can see we have bool. That's Boolean data type. So Boolean only returns either true or false. It's mostly used when you want to run conditional checks. If something is this or something is that, do a particular thing. When we get to if statement, you'll really understand what Boolean is used for. But for now, just understand that it's a Boolean data type. All right. We also have another one called the non-data type. All right, and we're going to look at that as we progress. But these are the basic ones that you will be handling or working with in almost every time, from time to time, in your program. All right. So let's move to the next thing on our list, the basic operators. You want to see how to do some mathematical operators like division, addition, and all that. And we want to see all these actions, the percentage sign, the slash slash, the double asterisk. I think if you come here, I listed them here, plus, minus, asterisk, slash, and all that. Let's see how it really works. Okay. I will just comment this off for now. Okay. All right. So let's start with the simple one. Everybody knows the plus. Let's say A equals to 4 and B equals to 2. So if I print, or let me just do add equals to A plus B, this simply means I'm adding the content of this variable to this other one. And I also do subtract equals to A minus B. Let's take those two for now. So if I say print add and also print subtract, I should have A plus B, which is 6, and this one is 4 minus 2, which is here. So let's look at asterisk. Asterisk is for multiplication. Multiply equals to A asterisk B, and that will give you the product of A and B. So let's print that. Print multiply. All right. So running that give us 4 times 2. That's 8. Let's look at division again. Print. Okay. Let's write it right here. Divide equals to A divided by B. So print in brackets divide. That give us 4 divided by 2, and it gave us 2.0. Okay, why is it 2.0 and why is this one 628? Each time you use division, the value will be converted to floating data type, because float is going to have point something. Okay, I didn't even mention that one here, data type. Okay, we don't talk about float. Sorry about that. Okay, float, it gives you the value in the decimal point. If I print type of division here, type of division, divide, you're going to see class of float. Face it. float has a decimal point attached to the integer. All right, this is the real number and this is the mantis. I think that's in physics or something like that or stuff like that. Okay. All right, so the next one you want to work on is the percentage remainder equals to a percentage b. Now this is not actually the percentage we all know, but this is modulus. What is modulus? It returns the remainder of a value. For instance, 4 divided by 2 is going to go 2 times remainder 0. So that means 4 divided by 2, 4 modulus 2 rather, is going to give us 0 as a result. So if I print here, print remainder, that should give us 0 here. Now, what if I have 4 modulus, let's say 1, or let me use 3. That's going to give us 3 goes into 4 how many times? 1 time, remainder 1. So on running this, I'm going to have 1 as my remainder, right? But what if I say 4, a equals to 4 and b equals to, let's say, 8? Now take note that your 4 is lesser than 8 and you're trying to find the remainder of 8 goes into 4 how many times? That is 0 time remainder what? 4. So the result is going to be like 4 on the screen, which you see here. So this percentage returns a remainder of a particular number checked on a particular number, right? Okay, the next one is double asterisk, and that is used for exponential. Exponent equals to a double asterisk b. What this will do is 4 raised to power 8. Okay, so let's use 2 here instead, because 4 raised to power 2 is 16. If I use 8, it's going to give us some large number. Let me use something like this, and then let's run that. We what's wrong? Okay, we've not printed the exponent. Yeah, that's fine. So let's print the exponent, and here we go. We got 16 right here. Okay, and the last one is double division sign. Double division sign will give you it will convert your supposed floating point numbers into integer number. For instance, when I have a divided by b, I had 2.0, which is right here. So this time around, if I say let me use div as a variable name equals to a, then double division sign b. On printing this, I'm gonna have just 2. The 0 will not be there. Print div. Okay, so you can see we have 2 here. And what does that really mean? Let's say I have 3 here, which will give us some fractional values. So if I run this code right now, you're going to see that I have here the first division give me 1.333, but the second one, the div, give me what? 1, just 1. So it's going to ignore everything on the decimal point and then take only the whole number. That's the work of the double division sign. And I think we've covered the basic or everything that has to do with arithmetic operators. All right, we move ahead to the next stage, typecasting. All right, what is typecasting? We have 2 ways or 2 basic ways of types of typecasting. We have the implicit typecasting and we have the explicit typecasting. What does that mean? In implicit, for instance, we had we were dividing 4 by 3. Let me take this off. I'm gonna clean everything here. So let's say I have a equals to, let's say, 5, and then I have b equals to, let's say, 6. All right, now the type of a is integer, right? The type of b is also integer, right? Now if I say divide equals to a divided by b, all right, if I print the type of divide, it's gonna give me what? Float. But the values that it's pointed to, that is assigned to, is actually integers. This is implicit casting. It automatically casts the values of the result of a and b into float. So if I print the type of divide, I'm gonna have float. But if I print the type of a or b, let's take for instance a here, I'm gonna have integer. That is implicit casting. Now, explicit casting is, now let's say for instance, I have 5 is given as integer, right? If I print the type of 5, I'm gonna have, or a rather, I'm gonna have integer. But now I want to actually cast that value to float. I don't want to print it as an integer, but I want to print it as float. So I can say, let's say new a equals to float, and I pass a inside. Now at this point, I am casting this value, which was initially declared as integer, into float. So if I print now type of print new a, or print rather new a, all right, I'm gonna have float. So I have casted the original data type of this variable into another variable. I can also cast, let's say, to string str, that's for string. So on printing this, I'm gonna have it become string. So instead of having a numeric data type, I'm now having what? A string. Why do we need this? Yeah, for instance, you had a file that you saved in your computer, and the file, let's say it has some content, let's say 65, something like that, and now this is a string, but I want to add this 65 to a number. Let's say I want to add 5 to it to make 70, and I have add equals to file plus 5. All right, if I try to run this code, I'll run into an error. Let me try that. Print, and then I print add. I run this, I have an error because I can't add a string to a number. I explained this in my first module class. You can go back to check for that. Okay, so what I can do here is to cast this file. Since I know that the string has a numeric content in it, I can cast this into an integer or a float, which is now possible to add to this 5. So I can say integer, I pass a bracket here and close it right here. Now it has converted this value into what? A number, and then it will be possible to add it to a number, which will give us 70. So I'm running this code now, I can have 70 on the screen. That's the work of typecasting. It makes sense like that. Okay, when we start working with input commands, how to get data from users, we'll be using this a lot. Okay, so but one thing you need to notice here is that you must be sure that whatever you have inside the string can be casted to the data type you want to cast. For instance, I can't pass a here and then try to cast. If we do that, we're going to run into an error. Let's see that. You can see we have an error because the a is not known as a number. So when it casts to integer, it is not converted to a real number, which cannot be added to this 65, or 5 rather. But there is something you can actually do to be able to cast this number, this a, into a number and then print it. That is about ASCII. So what you can do here is to use an OR here. This will convert this value into a number and then add it to 5. If I run this code, I can have 102. But how do we arrive at 102? We are going to look at that in subsequent times, but just have this basic understanding for now. All right. Okay, so that's about casting. It's just as simple as that. I believe you're following me. Okay, we move into the next one, comment and print functions. All right. If you notice in my previous, let me just try to undo it and go back to that part. Okay. All right. You notice that I use something here that's ignored this right up here. Everything I'm writing here, this comment. Comment is used by a programmer to really understand his step-by-step sequential progressions on his code. Let's say, for instance, and also used for let's say it's also used for to give an insight of what your code does. I want to write a code now to you, and I don't even know you, and you don't even know me. First, I need to maybe add some author, some content that makes you know who is sending the code to you, right? So we have single line comment, which is used by hash, or which you start by hash. This is comment. If I run this code, you notice that nothing is printed on the screen because this is a comment line. Okay. If I say maybe this is comment, you notice that this flags an error because the computer does not know if it is a string or if it is a variable name or if it doesn't even know what you're trying to write. So that's a whole lot of error. But you can do this. Let's say let equals to this is comment. So if I print let, it's gonna print this is comment on the screen. It is not printing this first line but the line 3. Alright, this is single line comment. Multi-line comment, if you want to write, maybe I want to have 3 lines. Let's say this is comment line 1 hash again, this is comment line 2 hash again, this is comment line 3. Now instead of me writing it line by line like hash hash hash, I can choose to use 3 quotes 1 2 3 and also end it with 1 2 3, then remove this hash. Okay, this is now multi-line comment. You can break it down if you like, it doesn't really matter. This is multi-line comment, so everything that falls inside this something like this, they're all comments. It will not be interpreted by the compiler. All right, but this comment, this particular very comment, multi-line comment, can be used as docstring. We'll talk about that when you start dealing with RVs, when you start dealing with them writing our CLIs as command line interpreters by yourselves. So for now, just understand that it's used for what? Multi-line comment. You can use either a single quote or you can use double, but it's still gonna be 3 times 1 2 3, and when you're done with the comment, you pass the same 1 2 3 here. That's still the same thing. So either you use single or use double, it's fine like that. It's fine. Okay, so that's about comment. Then we now move a bit further into print functions. Okay, normally we know how to print our code by just passing print and then we write something we want to print inside here. But there are other methods that you can use print, that you can print with print functions, which you're going to be applying in subsequent codes you'll be writing. Now let's do some stuff. Let's say I have h equals to, or let me start with name equals to engine tech, and then h equals to maybe 25, right? let me use 35. Okay, now I want to print something like this. I want to print engine tech is 35 years, let me join it together, years old. All right, that's what I want to print on the screen. Okay, and I want to print this from this name and variable name here. There are multiple ways you can do that with a print statement. You can have something like this: print first you call the name which is above there, something like this, name, comma, is, that is going to be quoted, so you have is, then comma again, you call the h, comma again, years old. All right, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because the name is a variable name. If you put this name inside the string, inside the quote, it's gonna print name is. It's not gonna reference this variable name, so that's what I'm putting outside. So the comma is just to separate the name from this other keyword. Did I just say keyword? Sorry. To separate the name from this other text you're trying to write. So from here, we can simply run the code and you have engine tech is 35 years old. But if you notice that this 35 years, it's joined with this 35. But when I printed mine, it's giving me a space because I have a comma here. So each time you have a comma, it's gonna separate that file with the next thing coming to join together. All right. Now there are ways you can do that to eliminate that space. One, I can use the concatenation by adding a plus sign here. After the H, I have a plus sign here. But now, because H is actually a number, and what you're trying to concatenate is a string to a number, that's not going to work. So you can do that typecasting by converting this to a string so that it can be concatenated. So you're going to have str, and then you pass it to, you concatenate it to this years old. That's going to work. So if I run this now, I'm going to have engine tech is 35 years old. You can see it's joined together. All right. That is one way. And what if you were not allowed to typecast? Because sometimes I can maybe give an assignment to my student and tell you, don't use typecasting. Just run the code the way it is and ensure that everything is joined together. Hence, you need other ways that you can actually print with the print functions. All right. The first one here, let me allow that one to be like that. And then I'm going to comment it out for now. We're going to use the string interpolation. Where is it? The string interpolation. This is actually an older ways of printing in Python. It is mostly used in C language when you use the format specifiers. But in Python 3.0 and above, it's obsolete. But this was essential in Python 2. I just want to bring it to your notice, but I'm not sure we're going to be using this again. So what you do is to say print, all right, the name here, where you have the name, you're going to pass the format specifier that will capture the string data type, which is %s. But it's got to be inside a string like this. Now, on doing this, the computer will automatically invoke or convert this %s into the variable name that is supposed to capture. So that is it. %s is h years old, so I'm going to pass %d. This stands for string, this stands for digits. Then I input years old. When you're done with that, you have to call the variables that will represent this s and the d. And the variables is actually name and age. So what I'm going to do is to say percentage in brackets. The first one is to pass the name, and then the second one is to pass the age. We have an issue. What's that? Okay, I think there is no comma. Okay, yeah, that's fine. There's no comma here. Okay, so let's run that code and see what that gives us. You can see we still have engine tech is 35 years old. So the name here is a string data type. So you have to pass %s. What if you pass %d? Let's see to that. You can see there's a flag of error here because the d is only specifically used for a numeric data type. But if what you're trying to pass into this very format specifier is a string, it must be s. There are lots of format specifiers out there. You have %s, %d, we have %x, we have b, and there are a whole lot of it. All right. Now this process was tedious, which was extracted from C language. Hence, the new format came up, which is called the f string. Let me comment this one out. The f string now eliminates the use of format specifiers, and it simply operates this way. You're going to have print statements. You pass your f for the f string, open your, it can be single quote or double quote, it doesn't matter. Then where you have the %s, you're going to pass the name directly inside that place. So you're going to have a curly braces, and then the variable that you want to call, in this sense, is name. So name is, the second one is the age. I'm still going to do the same thing. I'm going to pass the age here, and then years old. So on running the code, I'm still going to have engine tech is 35 years old. That's the second way you can do that. This is string interpolations. This is the f string format. Okay, and then the last one you can actually use is the dot format string. The same thing is almost the same thing with the f string, and we can do this. F, sorry, you don't need to start with the f. You start with the quote directly. So where you have the variable called, you just pass an empty curly braces, that represents name is H years old. Then you call in the variable name by using dot format brackets. The first name, it must be name. The second is age. If you interchange this, of course it will interchange your output. So if I run this, I'm gonna have engine tech is 35 years old. If I change this to age, maybe by mistake or something, and I change this to name, if I run this code, it's gonna give me 835 is engine tech years old. So I don't think you want to make such a mistake. You have to ensure that the place value of your variable matches the place value of your curly braces. That does it. Okay, so I think we've covered the print statements. Let's look at string concatenations. All right. In string concatenations, it's just about joining multiple strings together. Maybe I have different strings I want to add. You use the plus to join them together. Let's take for instance, I have something like let's say call or first name equals to gentle, and then last name equals to Ian. All right, and I want to join the two names together. I will now say a print something like print. I'm gonna call first name then plus last name. This means you've concatenated the first one to the second one and it's gonna be joined together. So if I run this, I'm gonna have gentle and young, but it's joined together. So for you to create a space, you can simply come here and add a space, but probably you're not allowed to do that. What you can do here is to concatenate this to an empty space before this last name. So with that, it's gonna give me gentle space Ian. Let's try that. You can see the output right here. That is about string concatenations. All right, and you can use it in different occasions. Maybe you have a multiple things you want to add together. Maybe one is like here, let's say first name is here, and then you have some lines of code here. Maybe some line of codes here, and then you want to add this first name to second name. This is where it's important to use this, or you can use the format string or the f string or the interpolations to still do the same thing. They're all awesome. It's something you can do. And then I think that's about that. We've talked about this in our previous video. You can look at that. Okay, so this is the end of this very module. In the next module, we are going to look at a bit of how to create functions, how to how to do some conditions in our programs, so that to have some some go to, if this doesn't happen, do this and stuff like that. We're going to be doing that in the next video. But before I call this video a close, I want to talk a little bit on the end and set. Then the these are called keyword parameters, and we're going to talk about the join functions, and then we call it a day for this very session. Okay, let's talk about the end and set again. I think I explained that before now. Where do we need the end and why do we need it, and where do we need the set, why do we need it? Okay, now let's take for instance I have something like prints. I have three values inside here. Let me say the first one is first name is gentle, and then I have the second one is, I think I had Ian, and I had the next one is Nigeria. Okay, so if I run this, I'm gonna have gentle Ian Nigeria. Okay, it's separated by what space, but I did not put any space here. That is automatic, that's default. Now if I want to these values to be separated with something like an underscore, or I want to put hyphen instead of using the space, that's where the sep keyword parameter is used for. SEP, you simply pass equal to I want to use the minus sign. So instead of printing gentle space Ian space Nigeria, it's gonna print gentle hyphen Ian hyphen Nigeria, just like what you've seen here. So the sep is called separator. It's used to, create a value of what to separate each print statement. It works in a list, it works in a tuple. When you get further in the program, you're going to explain, I'll get details about that. You can write anything here. Maybe gentle is, maybe I can do something like this. Gentle, um, what should I even use here? Let me just add something like hello, gentle hello, young hello Nigeria. So I'm doing this, you can see it adds hello automatically to every space. So it's just used to add values or add some stuff that you want to add in between strings or in between list or whatever I want to do with that. That's about set. And then the end is something like this. Let's say that I want to print two multiple lines. I want to print something here again. Let's say I want to print I love programming. Okay. Now, if I run this code, you realize that I love programming comes to the next line, right? But what if I want this I love programming to be on the same line with the first line, but I don't want to write it inside this print statement? So what I can simply do is to add n here, and n should be equals to empty. All right. On running this code, you can see I love programming is added to Nigeria. Now you can choose to maybe add a space or something between after this Nigeria. You can put hyphen here again. On running here, it's gonna be I love Nigeria hyphen I love programming. So it's just almost the same thing with the sep, but the sep is only separating the strings in between the print statements or list or whatever I want to do with it. While the end is actually overwriting the concept of new line per a function. That's what the end does. All right. So end is opposite of sep in just if you look at it that way. Okay. So or let's say I want to have 5 lines. After this, instead of having something like this, if I print this, I have just 1 line, right? I want to have maybe 3 or 5 lines after printing gently young. I want it to have 5 lines before they love programming. So instead of you to do something like this, let's say print empty lines like 5 times, I can simply use the end to do that. So what I'm going to do is to say end, and I'm going to pass slash n, multiply that by 5. So let's see to that. You can see we have 5 spaces before the I love programming. What does that do? What does that mean? It simply creates a new line 5 times before it prints programming, instead of writing print empty 5 times. So you can use end to actually accomplish that. So those are how to work with prints and work with end and sep and print statements. Okay. I think the next one is the join function. Let's look at how we work with the join. So what the join function actually do is that, in the previous code we wrote, the end and then sep, the sep will add some, let's say I have something like name equals to let's say engine tech. Now the end will actually remove the new line depending on what you add into the end, and the sep will also separate the strings by whatever you call it to separate it with. Now the join, let's say that I want to add a value to this original value. Let's say I want to, at every space after e, put something like dollar, after n put something like dollar. So I can simply do this. Let's say print dollar, then dot join name. Now what this will do is that it's gonna separate each of every character in this name with dollar. So on running this, you can see E dollar, N dollar, G dollar, and the rest dollar. This helps. This helps when you're doing basic encryption, let's take for instance I have something like this: password equals to, let's say, admin. All right, this is just the basic ones, so there are ways you can do that. This is just basic. This is not the best way to do this. I'm just trying to explain for beginning level. All right, so I have admin and I want to print this password, but I don't want the user or someone to really know what password I inputted. All right, I want to write some kind of letters in between them, so you're confused which one comes after which. So I can simply say print, let's say I want to join something like ZEED, all right, to every line. Then I have dot join, I have password. Now if I print this, look at what it's giving me. You don't even know that this password means admin, right? But I know myself that the password is admin. I'm just trying to confuse you so that you don't know my password. You don't understand what I wrote as a password. So even if you see this, I said this is my password, you can never understand what I'm doing. Okay? So I can now myself, I know that each letter is separated by what? 4 letters. So I can now write another code to remove those 4 letters from it. At every space, delete 4 letters and then give me back my initial value. It will give me admin back. Let's see how to actually do that. And before we end this session. Okay, so what I will simply do here is to first, I have to save this into a variable. Let's say show password. Let's say show equals to this. So if I should print this, now what is printed to the user is AZE, all this blah blah, and that's what the user assumes my password. So you cannot even imagine that my password is ADMIN, right? So what if I want to now get back my real password? So what I'm gonna do is to say print, or let me say real password equals to the show. I'm gonna explain this later when we talk about slicing. I'm gonna start with the index 0 of whatever the user is assumed for the password. Then I'm gonna stop at the last index. Then the interval between the first A and the second D, which is the admin, is 5 because this is 4. So that means plus 0 plus 4 is 5. Sorry, 1 plus 4 is 5. So I'm gonna have 5 here as an interval. That's because the first is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At the 5th time, we have the second value D. If we read again 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. At the 10th time, we have M. So that's the interval between whatever I'm trying to, the differences between each of these characters in the variable password. So if I should print this now, print real password, you can see I have back admin. So this is like basic encryption to avoid users having the knowledge of what your password is. This is confusing, but I really know that my real password is what admin. So that's the basics of using the join and the end, the sep. There are many things you can do with that. Just try to learn, try to make some research and make some findings to enhance your ability. I'm gonna drop another assignment in the description of this video. Go there, get it, try to do the assignment. If you can complete this module, that means you've been able to work around on the variables, data types, comments, prints, functions, concatenation, and some other things I will add to that very file. So I think you've come to the end of module 2. In the next program, in the next module, we are going to look at how to create if statement, elif, and then how to do some codes, some projects. We are going to write some projects live, and some assignments we give in that regards too. Meanwhile, thank you for having me right here. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you like what you're seeing, and then thumbs up. I love you all. See you in the next module. Bye bye.